Shabbat Shalom. As we've now concluded our formal Shabbat service, we transition now with tremendous pride and gratitude to honoring the veterans of our U.S. Armed Forces. And of course, as I mentioned before, as we honor and give thanks to the veterans of the United States Armed Forces, we also very much keep in our mind and in our prayers all of the first responders who day in and day out put their lives on the line in defense of our country and in protection of our lives. And so now it is with deep pride, with tremendous respect and gratitude, that I invite the congregation to rise. We will begin in just a moment our processional honoring our U.S. veterans. The processional will be led by the Jewish War Veterans Color Guard, by the Southfield Police, and by our highest-ranking member of our congregation, General Donald Schenk. Please rise as we welcome and salute the veterans of the United States Armed Forces. You may sing along with the Chazan in the back of your Veterans Shabbat booklet.
We welcome those who served in the Army Armed Forces. First to fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the Army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the Army goes rolling along. And then it's high, the Army's on its way, count on the cadence loud and strong, for wherever we go, you will always know that the Army goes rolling along. First to fight for the right and to build the nation's might, and the Army goes rolling along. Proud of all we have done, fighting till the battle's won, and the Army goes rolling along. Then it's high, the Army's on its way, count off the cadence loud and strong, for wherever we go, you will always know that the Army goes rolling along, that the Army goes rolling along. We welcome those who have served in the Marine Corps. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our blood clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marine. From the halls of Montezuma to the shores of Tripoli, we fight our country's battles in the air, on land and sea. First to fight for right and freedom, and to keep our honor clean. We are proud to claim the title of United States Marine. We welcome those who served in the Navy. Anchors aweigh, my boys, anchors aweigh. Farewell to college joys, we sail at break of day. Through our last night on shore, drink to the foam. for the Air Force. Off we go into the wild blue yonder, climbing high into the sun. Here they come, soon to meet our thunder, and boys, here to the gun. And down we dive, spouting our flame from under. Off we run, hell of a roar. We live in fame or go down in flame. Hey, nothing will stop the Army Air Corps. Nothing will stop the Army Air Force.
Please remain standing as we offer now the Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at twilight's last stream, who brought rise and bright stars through the perilous fight? O'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streamed, and the rockets red bursting air gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and all of the brave?
You may be seated.
General Schenk served the U.S. Army for 35 years, retiring as a brigadier general. He also served as vice president of the Israel Defense Forces and international tank programs at General Dynamics Land Systems. He currently serves as advisor to Fisher House, Michigan, and is a member of the Jewish War Veterans and security committees for Jewish Federation and Congregation Shaarey Zedek. We also welcome his wife, Janet, and note that they are the proud mother and father of Joshua and Zachary. It is with an honor and privilege that we invite General Schenk to speak to us.
Good morning. As Zahn said, I'm Don Schenk. I'm a proud member of this congregation and of the Jewish War Veterans. Today is my honor to do a few quick introductions that are of merit. First and foremost, I'd like to thank the men of the Jewish War Veterans Color Guard and the City of Southfield Color Guard for again this year presenting and posting the colors. Now I would ask that if you're a U.S. Army veteran or a currently serving soldier, to please rise and face the congregation. So if you are a veteran or a currently serving soldier in the United States Army, please rise and face about to the congregation. Will all Navy veterans and sailors please rise and face about to face the congregation. All Marine Corps veterans and currently serving Marines, please rise and face the congregation. Members of the United States Air Force or Army Air Corps, please rise. Coast Guard veterans, those of the Brown Water Navy, please rise and face the congregation. And finally, any veteran of the Merchant Marine, of the U.S. Public Health Service, or the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, all too are veterans of our armed forces. And now, most importantly, if you are a family member who served at home while your loved one served in uniform, please rise, because it is to you that we owe special honor and special homage today. Ladies and gentlemen, these great stalwarts serve as a constant reminder to all of us that freedom is never more than a single generation from extinction. Please join me once again in recognizing these men, women, and their families. Please take your seats. Our Torah portion today is particularly appropriate as we pause in observance of the contribution of these great sons and daughters of our nation. While we traditionally think of this portion in terms of the story of Abram responding to God's direction to go, or the announcement of the pending birth of Isaac, there is another story here. In it we read of the first battle of our common history, in which Abram marshaled 318 men traveling with him to rescue his kinsmen, including his nephew Lot, from the clutches of the king of modern-day Iran. As a result, Abram was blessed by the king of Salem, modern Jerusalem, who said, "Blessed be Abram of God Most High, creator of heaven and earth, and blessed be God Most High, who has delivered your foes into your hand." Thus is recorded the first battle of the Torah and the contributions of our forefathers, not only in protecting their fellow man, but also in ensuring the everlasting life of our people. These too are the contributions of those we honor today. Thank you for all you've done for our nation. It is my distinct honor now to introduce Colonel Ed Hirsch, the commander of the Department of Michigan of the Jewish War Veterans. Ed is a 35-year veteran of the United States Army, but Ed is quite unique. Ed is a dentist. Ed is a master parachutist. Ed is an Army Green Beret, Special Forces. Ed is also the recipient of the nation's second highest award for valor, the Distinguished Service Cross. Ladies and gentlemen, Commander Ed Hirsch.
Thank you, General. I appreciate those kind remarks. I thank all those concerned with organizing this wonderful service to honor and recognize our nation's veterans in general and the Jewish war veterans specifically. It is my high honor to be the commander of the Michigan Department of the Jewish War Veterans. Our membership is comprised of uniformed veterans of the United States Army, Navy, Marine Corps, Coast Guard, Public Health Service. In addition to our veterans, the Department of Michigan is lucky to have a very dedicated and active auxiliary made up of our members' wives and daughters. As we rapidly approach the national holiday honoring veterans on November 11th, I believe it is appropriate to tell you that Jews have served in every conflict since the Revolutionary War, and many have experienced the rigors of combat, others not. However, we all have served our nation when called and are fiercely proud of our service. The Jewish War Veterans of the United States of America was established in 1896, making it the oldest veteran service organization in our country. The original founders of the Jewish War Veterans were veterans of the Civil War, and in its initial mission was to provide for the interests and needs of fellow Jews who found the transition from the battlefield to civilian life a struggle. In addition, the founders of the Jewish War Veterans committed the organization to commemorate and honor those who paid the ultimate price in service to our country. The Michigan Jewish War Veteran Department was chartered in July 1940. Today, our primary mission is no different as we have come to learn the reality of war and the unique stress of military life. It reveals that physical and psychological wounds extend beyond the fields of battle in terms of service. Therefore, today, as in the past, the Jewish war veterans are engaged in activities at many levels that help ensure that no veteran or his or her family is left behind once he or she returns home. Our department is actively engaged in interacting and supporting those veterans, populating the region's veterans' homes and hospitals. From quarterly bingo outings organized by our auxiliary at the John Dingell Veterans Hospital in Detroit, to our annual Christmas program at the Veterans Hospital in Battle Creek, a tradition of the department for over 60 years. This shows our commitment to make life a little brighter for our fellow veterans that require hospitalization. Another area of our activities is advocating for effective veterans programs, that those who are entitled to receive these benefits actually receive or are aware of them. This effort is overseen by our national office in Washington, D.C., with support from the state Jewish war veteran organizations. The Jewish War Veterans conducts an active legislative initiative that works closely with both houses of Congress, the Veterans Administration, and other governmental agencies dealing with veterans affairs. Most Americans do not think about or realize that the immense costs required to care for wounded service people returning from today's modern battlefield. Due to the major advances in technology and the great skill of our military-trained personnel, more soldiers, sailors, Marines, airmen, and Coast Guardmen do make it home. However, these individuals require more long-term or lifetime care. The benefits afforded to a wounded veteran and his or her family covers only the basics of care and family upkeep. Our fundraising programs hope to make life a little nicer for our wounded comrades and their families. Finally, we think it important to play a part in our community. One of the long-standing traditions of the Department of Michigan and its auxiliary is the awarding of scholarships to high school seniors to help further their education. I would be amiss if I did not ask all veterans present today to become active in the Jewish war veterans. It's very important. Our numbers are dwindling due to the loss of World War II and now Korean-era veterans. But I would ask all veterans to join our ranks. Plus, thank each of you in attendance today for your continued support for our veterans. Shabbat Shalom. It is my honor now to introduce Dr. Paul Gold, a captain, United States Army Medical Corps, assigned to the 11th Armored Cav Regiment serving in combat during the Vietnam War. During his tour, he was decorated with our nation's third highest award for valor, the Silver Star. This was for his entering a known minefield to treat wounded soldiers. He also was awarded the Bronze Star, Purple Heart, and Vietnam Medal of Honor. Dr. Gold.
Thank you, Colonel. The Veterans Creed. Several veterans service organizations have endorsed the Veterans Creed as a statement encouraging veterans of all wars to continue their involvement in their service to the nation. The Veterans Creed truly expresses the philosophy of the Jewish war veterans of the United States and its members, and the Jewish war veterans of the USA adopts the Veterans Creed as a veterans service organization. The Jewish war veterans of the United States of America says the Veterans Creed is, I am an American veteran. I proudly serve my country. I live the values I learned in the military. I continue to serve my community, my country, and my fellow veterans. I maintain my physical and mental discipline. I continue to lead and improve. I make a difference. I honor and remember my fallen comrades. That is the Veterans Creed. And now I'd like to introduce the chairman of our Veterans Shabbat, Mr. Donald Wagner of the United States Military Police Corps. Thank you.
I am honored and privileged today to chair this Veterans Shabbat, which has become a very moving and traditional service at our congregation. We hope it continues to endure in honoring our veterans and their families in the future. I also want to add my welcome and greetings to the congregation, the Jewish War veterans, the Color Guards, and the Honor Guards. In addition, I express our appreciation as well to General Schenk, the senior officer present, for honoring our veterans by leading the processional. We thank you for your many years of service and leadership to our country and our community. I also want to express our appreciation for the dedication and hard work of the Veterans Shabbat Committee, whose names are listed in your program, as well as the entire clergy, and a special thank you to the staff of Shaarey Zedek, including Hillary Strasburger and Shira Shapiro, for their constant efforts in ensuring the success of this Veterans Shabbat. Each armed conflict, from the War of Independence through World War I, World War II, Korea, Vietnam, Iraq, and Afghanistan, required our citizen soldiers to leave the safety, security, and comfort of their homes, heading off to faraway and dangerous places with names like Guadalcanal, Okinawa, Quezon, and Kabul. They serve with dignity, pride, determination, and valor. Our country owes them a debt that can never be repaid. This year, as has been mentioned by General Schenk and Colonel Hirsch, we'd like to make a special note that while the soldiers were serving on the front lines, evidencing their spirit and commitment to preserving our way of life, and sometimes making the ultimate sacrifice, they were not alone in this dangerous and daunting task. The soldiers of the various branches directly engaging the enemy, whether on land, sea, or air, have always been supported by a multitude of others, both military and civilian. The American military services are one of the most exemplary evidences of teamwork. Teamwork builds unity, loyalty, and trust, and that in large part is the reason for the strength of our military and hence our country in the protection of our families, principles, and freedom. A critical part of the team is, of course, the friends and family of soldiers who not only partnered in the war effort at home, but supported emotionally and otherwise their beloved citizen soldiers. They offer their services in addition to the efforts of the Jewish war veterans. As their loved ones went off to these dangerous and faraway places, the families were left at home with uncertainty and fear. The teamwork did not end with the conflict or the return of the soldiers. It continued when their loved ones returned home and required ongoing mental and physical support from the horrors they had endured. On behalf of a grateful nation, we thank the families of all of the veterans, and may God bless them as well as the veterans, our leaders, this country, and our community. This Veterans Shabbat, we have asked just such a family member to share with us her experiences, feelings, and fears. It is now my pleasure, on behalf of the Veterans Committee, to wish you Shabbat Shalom and to introduce Liz Tam, wife of the late Colonel Robert Tam of blessed memory, who served our country in both the Korean and Vietnam Wars.
My husband was Colonel Robert Tam. A few weeks ago, a recent friend, who did not know my husband, asked me if I could remember all the times that he was on active duty. I didn't understand his interest, but I thought about that for a while. Then I was asked to give this talk. So when I realized there was interest, I thought about it some more and talked to my children, family, and friends. Of course, the first time was June 1952. He had just graduated from high school and turned 18. He joined the Navy. That was during the Korean War. The Navy made him a medic, so he also served with the Marines. I can't tell you much about the home front because I was just 11. But when his shipmates got tattoos, he came home with one too, a Magen David, a Jewish star on his arm. I never asked my in-laws how they felt about that he had been at war, and he told me that he was afraid that if something happened to him, they might bury him under a cross. He was a junior in medical school doing an externship. One day when I picked him up from the hospital, he had a large bandage on his arm. The surgeon told him that he was going to be a doctor and that as a doctor, tattoos would not be well thought of. So the tattoo was cut out. The surgeon did a great job because after a few years, you could hardly see the scar. He always loved the military, so when the Army made him an offer, he came on board. There were many active duty times. I would be home with our 4 children, a job at the hospital, and my job running his office, which meant finding doctors to fill in his practice here while he was away. That was sometimes very stressful. I would try to get coverage on both fronts and join him for a few days or a week when I could. If he was in the United States, he could sometimes come home for the weekend, which was great for me and the children. Sometimes we would all travel to his post. We were worried during the Gulf War, but other times were not war zones. But we still worried. Now my children tell me that they were sometimes more worried about me and what I had to cover at home. They were proud of their dad, thought that he would be okay anywhere, anytime. It was not something that they could talk about to their friends, whose fathers were not military. We felt bad for all of the family things that he missed, children's programs, plays, concerts, and other family events, including my bat mitzvah, which was here in Anshaus, so it was during the week. He did get home for our daughter's bat mitzvah. That was on the weekend. Our youngest daughter's Barbie car was a Jeep. She thought that was normal. We all came to think that military things were normal. One Army weekend, he answered the door in full battle fatigue. Her date was a little frightened. On her return home, her dad asked her if he had behaved himself. She said yes, and that guy never called her again. What was normal to her was not to others. We had huge telephone bills since we talked every day. We have a very large family, but we sure missed him and his humor on holidays. He was a very funny guy. Our friends and family loved to retell his stories, and they all have their favorites. When he was stationed at Fort Benning, Georgia, his brother, Rabbi Donald Tam, and his family live in Atlanta, so he did get to spend extra time with his brother and our extended family. The Army also had him meet another Jewish family in Columbus, near the fort. They also became our friends. Yes, I can remember Forts Devens, Benning, Sam, Camp Darby, Germany, Japan, Korea, Holland, etc., etc. There were times that he left in civilian clothes, with uniforms packed, because the country was not as kind to the military as it is today. They were against the war, but they took it out on the soldiers who only wanted to serve their country. I'll always remember driving to his office down Gratiot and seeing all those trees with yellow ribbons. I almost cried thinking that some people do care. He was home recovering from surgery when the Army called and wanted to know if he was ready to retire. They really caught him at an opportune time. If he wasn't home recovering, he would have said no. But since he retired from the American Army, he could now go once a year and volunteer in Israel, sometimes at a hospital, but usually at an Army base. He loved working there too. I will tell you that the first time anyone thanked me for his service was when he passed away. So now it is so good to be at the airport and hear loudspeakers thanking the military for their service and offering them special waiting rooms and early entry onto planes. It is now evident that people are interested and do care. And I'm happy that people acknowledge his service and the service of all of our military. Thank you. Shabbat Shalom.
Thank you, Liz, for your beautiful words and for sharing your story with us. And to you and to all the families of our veterans, thank you for your incredible sacrifice and devotion to our country. May God bless all the families of our veterans. And to you, to Colonel Tam of blessed memory, and to all the veterans of the United States, may God bless each and every one of you. We join now with the Chazan as we sing God Bless the USA.
If tomorrow was the things were gone I'd worked for all my life, and I had to start again with just my children and my wife, I thank my lucky stars to be living here today, 'cause the flag still stands for freedom and they can't take that away. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died who gave that right to me, and I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. From the lakes of Minnesota to the hills of Tennessee, across the plains of Texas, from sea to shining sea, from Detroit down to Houston and New York to LA, there's a pride in every American heart, and it's time we stand and say, and I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA. And I'm proud to be an American, where at least I know I'm free, and I won't forget the men who died, who gave that right to me, and I'll gladly stand up next to you and defend her still today, 'cause there ain't no doubt I love this land. God bless the USA.
You may be seated. Emily Dickinson wrote that hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard, and sore must be the storm that could abash the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. As we honor our veterans this Shabbat, we could offer our thanks and respect to a myriad of different qualities, characteristics, and beliefs that bond the men and women who protect our country to one another and to the long and honorable line of our country's heroes. But it is the hope of the soldier, of the military physician, of the reservist, of the military police, of the volunteer, that stands as something sui generis in the mindset of this great nation. It is a hope that is covered in feathers, that perches in the soul of who we are as a country. It is a hope that believes in a time of peace and prosperity, a hope that marches to the pulse of liberty, freedom, and equality rather than the drumbeat of ego and selfishness. And most of all, it is a hope that, at its very core, is free from strings or caveats and void of any expectation of reciprocity. It is the gift of the self for the hope of tomorrow. And so as we read Parashat Lech Lecha on this Shabbat morning and we venture together through the seminal moments of our people's beautiful history, following in the footsteps of our ancestor Avram as he is told to go forth to a land unknown, to a place of mystery, to a time of uncertainty. We do so with the understanding that hope is abandoned by some, learned slowly by others, and yet built into the very being of a select few who will fight with their last breath to preserve it. Hope is the thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. On this Shabbat of journeying, of courageously stepping forward into the unknown, we take this moment to say thank you to our veterans and to their families. Thank you for never stopping, for singing the tune without the words, and for somehow never asking for anything in return. May all of our veterans continue to teach us the message of Lech Lecha, that we may venture into tomorrow with a hope of peace and understanding, of unity, respect, and love, a hope that is with feathers that perches in the soul. Thank you, and amen. At this moment, I'll invite all veterans who are able to please rise, and the family members of our veterans to please rise as well, as together as a clergy and as a congregation we offer the words, the ancient words of our people in this blessing.
May God bless each and every one of you and your families.
May God's face shine upon you and forever be gracious unto you.
May
God be with each one of you and strengthen your hands and our hands, that we should live in a world of peace because of your sacrifice and your dedication. May you and your children and your children's children, may all of our children know peace. Amen. And thank you.
You may be seated.